This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're broadcasting from the UN Climate Summit in Dubai. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees warns civil order is breaking down in the Gaza Strip as Israel continues its unrelenting assault. In one of the latest attacks, dozens of Palestinians were killed and injured. Israeli warplanes struck near the Al-Amal hospital and the Palestinian Red Crescent headquarters in Khan Yunis. In Gaza City, Doctors Without Borders reports 115 Palestinians were brought to the Al-Aqsa hospital Thursday, dead on arrival. The medical charity said in a statement, quote, "The hospital is full, the morgue is full. We call on Israeli forces to stop the indiscriminate bombing of the Gaza Strip and protect civilians and civilian infrastructure. We need a ceasefire now," they said. Meanwhile, videos emerged showing Israeli soldiers in Bet Lahia in northern Gaza detaining over 100 Palestinian men at gunpoint, forcing them to strip to their underwear while lined up, kneeling on the pavement. Among those detained was Dia al-Haqlut, a Palestinian journalist with the London-based pan-Arab newspaper Al-Arabi Al-Jadid. In a statement, the newspaper condemned the mistreatment of al-Jadid and other civilians, saying Israeli forces, quote, deliberately subjected the Gazans to degrading treatment, forcing them to disrobe, conducting intrusive searches, and subjecting them to humiliation upon arrest before forcibly transporting them to undisclosed locations, unquote. In the occupied West Bank, the Palestinian Health Ministry reports at least 6 Palestinians were killed and many others wounded in Israeli raids overnight. An Israeli airstrike in Gaza has killed the prominent Palestinian academic and activist Rafat al-Hariri, along with his brother, his sister, and 4 of her daughters. He authored dozens of stories and poems about life under Israeli occupation. Rafat al-Hariri spoke to Democracy Now! In October. Israeli strikes rattled his family's home in Gaza City.
Speak about thousands, hundreds and thousands of Israeli bombs and shells targeting all areas of the Gaza Strip. The kids can't sleep, the kids can't eat, the kids can't even speak. Most of the time they're just mute, silent, shaking out of fear, sometimes whimpering because of how close the bombs are wherever you are in Gaza.
We'll hear more of our interview with Rafat al-Hariri after headlines and speak with Jihad Abu Salim, Executive Director of the Jerusalem Fund, former student of Rafat al-Hariri, whom Abu Salim described as a teacher, a mentor, and a friend. An anti-tank missile fired by Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon killed an Israeli civilian on Thursday. The cross-border attack prompted retaliatory fire from Israeli tanks and helicopter gunships. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu threatened to reduce Lebanon's capital, Beirut, to rubble if Hezbollah increases its attacks.
If Hezbollah chooses to start an all-out war, then it will, by its own hands, turn Beirut and southern Lebanon, not far from here, into Gaza and Khan Yunis.
In Tel Aviv, friends and family of Israelis held hostage by Hamas held a candle-lighting ceremony Thursday, marking the start of the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. This is Daniel Lifshitz, whose 83-year-old grandfather, Oded, was kidnapped by Hamas and brought to the Gaza Strip October 7th.
We light the candles for the return of the hostages, for the release of the hostages, to make a deal for the hostages, and that's what we are here for.
On Tuesday, released Israeli hostages joined the loved ones of Israelis still held captive in a meeting with Netanyahu and his war cabinet. Haaretz reports one woman whose release was negotiated during an exchange of captives assailed Israeli leaders for indiscriminate attacks that put hostages at risk. She said, quote, "We slept in tunnels. We feared not Hamas, but Israel might kill us. And then it would have been said, Hamas killed you," unquote. Another former hostage whose husband remains a captive cited recent reports in the Wall Street Journal that Israel's drawn up plans to flood Gaza's network of underground tunnels with seawater, a move that could foul Gaza's supply of drinking water for decades. She said, quote, "He was taken to the tunnels, and you talk about washing the tunnels with seawater. You prioritize politics over the hostages," she said. The United States military has launched joint flight drills with Guyana as the White House reaffirmed its unwavering support of Guyanese sovereignty amid mounting tensions with Venezuela over the disputed oil-rich Essequibo region. After holding a referendum on the issue last weekend, the Venezuelan government ordered its state-owned companies to start exploring oil and mineral reserves in Essequibo, which represents roughly 2/3 of Guyana's territory. Guyanese asked the International Court of Justice to reaffirm current borders. This is the Guyanese president, Irfan Ali.
We will not allow our territory to be violated, nor the development of our country to be stymied by this desperate threat.
Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said Thursday regional groups should help find a peaceful resolution, adding, quote, "We do not need war in South America," Lula said. In Texas, a judge granted a temporary restraining order Thursday against the state's sweeping abortion ban to allow a 20-week pregnant woman with a non-viable fetus to get an abortion. 31-year-old Kate Cox filed the first-of-its-kind lawsuit last week. Travis County Judge Maya Guerra Campbell said it was, quote, "unforgivable that she was forced to go to court," unquote, to seek emergency medical care.
The idea that Ms. Cox wants desperately to be a parent, and this law might actually cause her to lose that ability is shocking and would be a genuine miscarriage of justice.
Following the judge's ruling, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton threatened to prosecute any providers involved in Kate Cox's abortion care. A Nevada grand jury has indicted 6 fake Trump electors who falsely claimed Trump won the 2020 vote in Nevada. They face felony charges with penalties that could see them sentenced to up to 5 years in prison. In Wisconsin, 10 pro-Trump Republicans involved in their state's fake elector scheme admitted Biden won Wisconsin in 2020 as part of a legal settlement. The agreement compels the 10 fake electors to cooperate with the Justice Department's investigations into Trump's election fraud and the January 6th Capitol insurrection. The Justice Department indicted Hunter Biden Thursday on 9 counts of tax evasion. The indictment, filed in California, accuses President Biden's son of withholding at least $1.4 million in federal taxes owed from 2016 through 2019, including income from foreign businesses in Ukraine and China. This comes as Hunter Biden is already facing federal firearms charges in Delaware. And Benjamin Zephaniah, a British activist and poet whose works were inspired by his Jamaican and Barbadian roots, has died at the age of 65. Zephaniah published his first collection of reggae-inspired dub poetry after he moved to London in 1979, tackling topics like racism and poverty. He was also one of the first poets to address the climate crisis. In 2003, Benjamin Zephaniah refused the prestigious OBE award, which stands for Order of the British Empire. In an op-ed, he wrote, quote, "No way, Mr. Blair, no way, Mrs. Queen, I'm profoundly anti-empire," he said. In 2010, Zephaniah spoke to Democracy Now! Just after he joined the British production of The People Speak, a people's history of Britain inspired by the work of the late historian Howard Zinn.
I didn't know big words like democracy. I didn't know the difference between left or right or anything like that. I just knew I was suffering racism. I was suffering police brutality. Our schools are run down, our houses are run down, and I wanted to speak about it. It was political, but I couldn't spell the word politics. I just wanted to talk about the conditions we lived in.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're broadcasting from Dubai in the United Arab Emirates at the UN Climate Summit. Democracy Now! Is funded by viewers like you. Please give today at democracynow.org/give.